And hello, welcome to our world. I noticed this afternoon that the things from us were a bit grainy, so I did a bit of tweaking behind the scenes, and hopefully that helps a bit. Apparently, only if I'm a gamer, showing you what I'm doing in real time on my game, can I get HD out of Facebook. But you know.
Is that for an extra fee?
I believe it probably is. A very good evening to our superb numero one friend, Rocker Kev. I do say hello to everybody that Facebook notifies me who's joined, but at the moment, although I can see that more people are actually watching, that's the only one that I've been notified about. So, but anyway, welcome to our world. And am I going to kick off and sound off tonight because I couldn't go on yesterday. I was just absolutely, having watched the PM's thing, I was kind of a bit. I was just at a loss for words. I didn't really know where to begin. So I had to calm down with a cold compress and all this thing for 24 hours before exploding and expressing my opinions in the sort of customary forthright way that I do. And it would appear that I'm not the only one, because this morning, according to the Press Gazette, who are the people who know about such things. Hello, Paul. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you on board. This morning, according to the Press Gazette, number 10 said that journalists would be excluded completely from the daily COVID-19 briefing, something that I thought only happened on the other side of the Atlantic. And of course, you see, journalists tend to ask sort of difficult questions, like they might say, well, Prime Minister, given that Germany and South Korea is now experiencing problems because they released their lockdown too early, what's with the big deal with the UK and things like that? Whereas your public questions tend to be things like, on a sunny day, what colour hat should I wear? This would have got him off the hook after that extraordinary speech from the PM last night, which left me completely. I like to think I'm a bright, reasonably bright fella, but it left me completely bemused because it didn't say stay at home; it said be vigilant, which is the kind of thing that the Green Cross man used to say for kids crossing the road. Look that way.
Yeah.
Look that way. Oh my God, there's a virus coming. Duck. What the heck is that stupid slogan all about? Which, of course, we still need to stay home. It's pretty bleeding obvious to anybody. But anyways, so the old spin doctors had their underwear in a real twist this morning, and said that our beloved PM Bojo, his Bojoishness, would only take questions from the public. But 2 hours later, they said, no, you're misunderstanding it. He's going to take questions for journalists after all. But the implied thing being, but go easy on him. Come on. That's ridiculous. And now Dazed. I used to think that Dazed and Confused was a song by Led Zeppelin, but it was also my reaction last night to see this announcement of I'm not sure what, of all these different phases and red alerts, and we're in DEFCON 7 now or something, and all the missile silos are prepped and everything. Come on, this is a virus. It's a simple thing, and it should get simple answers. Yeah, Dave Prowse says Rocker Kev, always use the Green Cross code because I won't be there when you cross the road. Was he also Darth Vader, or am I getting confused here? Please do fill me in. But the Green Cross man was quite legendary. Back in my day, which was even before that, this was to teach school children how to cross the road.
Okay.
See? And I'm going to find for Irma a photo of Green Cross Code Man, and then I'll share it with you as well.
I only knew about the Lollipop Lady.
Oh my goodness!
Cross the road.
They've been around since I was at school. The Lollipop Ladies, but here he was, and let's find this fella helping somebody to cross the road. Oh, and here's an iconically good picture of him. Yeah, that's the one. Let's open this up on the screen so that we all know who Mr. Green Cross is, and to make life a bit simpler for us all, the person who posted this photograph on the internet has greened. Good evening, Chaz. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's good to have you on board. Chaz is a relatively new friend of mine on Facebook who posts a lot of common sense about a lot of stuff, which is why a friend requested him, and top man. Yes, says Rocker Kev, Dave Prowse was the actor for Darth Vader, but James Earl Jones did the voice, as they didn't like the Welsh accent, see, so he had to have a different voice. Darth Vader like this wouldn't have sounded all that good, you know. But anyway, there he is, and does, what a hunk of a fella was the Darth Vader man. But you know, he's not going to save us against coronavirus, and neither are these Oh, Bristol accent. Oh, okay. Sorry, I can't. I don't know. I don't even know how a Bristol accent goes. But so, would a Bristol accent be something like this, boy? Do you know? Or maybe that's a Norwich accent. I can't tell you. But anyway, so before I get myself into lots of hot water with lots of people from around the country, and let's celebrate the diversity of our rich country and the way that we all speak differently in different parts of the world.
Even in Mexico, we have different accents. Mexico is a huge country. You have different northern accent, middle accent, and southern accent.
So can you tell from speaking to somebody from Mexico as a Mexican person which bit they're from?
Yes.
Ah. Well. You learn something every day, don't you?
Yeah,
But
I'm
anyway.
from the north. I'm Norteña, we speak.
Oh. So anyway, be ever vigilant also sounds like a sort of thing from Star Trek, doesn't it, as well? Or some other sci-fi movie. It sounds like something the captain would say at the end. Be ever vigilant for Klingons.
Yeah, the good
Make
thing,
it so. Yeah.
The good thing is that when he finished his speech saying all this stuff, guidance says, I just didn't understand it, so I had to ask you, can you please explain it to me? I mean, English not being my first language, I thought there was something missing up here. But no, I'm glad to say that I was not the only one.
I didn't understand it either. So that wasn't exactly. I know it's pre-recorded. Hello, a second Kevin has joined us. Our very good friend Kevin Darby from the Ipswich area. Hope things are good with you today, sir. I'm just any excuse for a rant, but I don't need an excuse for a rant because of the load of cobblers that was spoken about this easing of lockdown last night. I mean, that's all you can say really. It's nearly as stupid as that herd immunity thing that old Dominic Cummings came up with in March, but that was worse. But this is going to lead to a second spike. Hello! It's ridiculous. And the second spike on these pandemics is usually worse than the first spikes. Everybody goes out now going, well, hey, we're all better. But no, we're not. And see, the thing is, this is it. Anybody with half a brain was looking, which is all of us watching here and us at home as well. We were looking at the news reports from Italy in the beginning of March, when people were being sort of taken out in body bags and driven away in lorries, and they were having sort of cold store, kind of like porter cabin things outside the nursing home, taking all the people out. And we were thinking, this is serious. And here in the UK, we were having stereophonics concerts and crap like that. And we were having 3,000 Spanish fans coming from a hot zone of coronavirus into Manchester and Liverpool and walking around. This clearly doesn't make sense. We now look at the news and we see that in South Korea and that in Germany, there are still problems with coming out of this virus too soon. And South Korea and Germany were super good in terms of going into this. They reacted very, very quickly to this thing. They tested an awful lot of their citizens. They test probably every hour, more than we've tested in total. So they were doing it completely right. Obviously, you have to sort of ease off at some point and gradually get back into gear. But both of those countries who did it right all the way through have experienced issues doing lockdown. With our kind of stiff upper lip thing that we have here of keep calm and carry on and we don't know what the hell we're doing, which is not the right reaction for a pandemic. It is not. We are nowhere near the point where we can lift these restrictions. And it was bad enough. You're getting me. It's getting me going. And look, a worried face, but my head is about to pop off in a minute. Back over the back of the room, and then should have to get it back and screw it back on again. Middle of next week. Last week, what happens? The old spin doctors say, well, the Prime Minister is going to make a statement on Sunday, easing the restrictions somewhat. What a stupid thing to say just before a bank holiday. Of course you get loads of people in Hackney and elsewhere in the park having beer and pizzas and that kind of thing, because they're thinking, oh my God, we've been locked up for all this time. This is worse than the Blitz. Crusher, rock hard, rock heavy and rock animal. I am laying it on the line today about what I think about the crap that's been going on about coronavirus within the last 24 hours, about easing it all up and letting everybody out to go and catch these germs, because we won't know. We won't know for 2 or 3 weeks if everybody's caught all this germ again, and then when the when the A&E gets all full again and this kind of thing, it's insanely irresponsible. And I'm sure that that you would agree. But you know, that is to say, you know, I don't know. Did you understand this press conference any less than I did? Because I just didn't understand what the hell Boris was on about last night. I really didn't. And you know, that is that is the truth here.
Could it be a premeditated spike that was? I mean, coming the holiday season for the school, I think students, I don't know, the spike's gonna rise when they're at home. So it could be a premeditated one.
It could be, but I don't credit this government with intelligence. But you know, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I see them sort of muddling through. They'll build a bridge somewhere, and that will distract our attention. Perhaps a bridge going across the North Atlantic for cars, single file, and that will that worked in London. Anyways, look, I'm not political because Corbyn would have done worse, to be frank. So you know, of a bad lot, Boris is probably the best one. And I say I don't mean 10 out of 10 here. I don't. So another thing he goes. Boris Johnson says, and I quote, "I hope for a vaccine, but it is by no means guaranteed." Again, I thought politicians are supposed to lift our spirits. And you know, the esteemed lady in Oxford has been saying there's an 80% chance of having one by September. So come on, let's pour a bucket of cold water over it. Not necessary, and there is some fantastic research going on in places like Utrecht, and where they've got a monoclonal antibody that actually whacks the old SARS on the head and this one. So you know, but the research takes a bit of time, and we've got to be patient while the bombs are falling all around, and we're cowering in the Anderson shelter listening to Vera Lynn, you know, over the light of a campfire. We've got to be brave. Oh, hang on, we're actually sitting on the sofa watching Netflix. What the heck is all this about? We're going to be fine. We just need to stay indoors for a bit, and we'll miss a bit of sunshine. Vitamin D tablets will make up for that. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
And breathe.
My goodness, how do you put up with me?
Graciously.
Oh my goodness. I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
I must say that, yes, I understand you're concerned,
but in terms of, you know, Rocket Kev and I made this graph, because we're both very into sort of geeky spreadsheety things, and I put all the numbers in. He made it pretty with all these diagrams that actually make me understand the numbers, because you can't, looking at a colour of numbers, you can't really tell very much, but once you see it as a nice wavy line, and the old wavy line was going up, and then we all stayed at home, and and now it's going down, which is fabulous, and it actually wiggles away to nothing by about the beginning of June, but if we all start catching it again, then there's some doubt there. And you know, there's a lot of confusion on the numbers, even the scientists. Do you know this R number? And the R number is the number of people that each infected person passes it on to. And if that R number is more than 1, well, obviously, it's pretty bleeding obvious the infection grows, because one person infects 2 people, infect 4 people. If the R number is less than 1, so that each person, it fizzles away and fizzles out. And so I saw one of the scientific bods being interviewed, and he goes, well, the R number is somewhere between 0.9 and 0.4. That's an enormous variation. And you know, so the science is a bit vague. It's a bit of a new, it's a new thing. We're all tackling it in different ways. Australia did very well with it, didn't they? And New Zealand, what did they do? Oh yeah, they stopped the flights as soon as we started seeing quite how bad the pandemic was. How long did we wait? Oh, another couple of months. There's things happen, don't they? But you know, if we'd done it properly to start with, we wouldn't be in this mess now. But we certainly don't want to see it going any worse. This press conference, well, it was quite interesting to see. Certainly, it scores high for sort of entertainment value, you know, the old virus is on the way down, which is good, but you know. Are we or are we not? Okay, a United Kingdom. Because we are in England, kind of relaxing things in a vague sort of way that's a bit non-committal, that doesn't tell us exactly what we're doing, except we're vigilant. Behind you, there's a virus. I got it. I mean, is that what it means? I mean, you know, oh, there's another one. Oh no, I wasn't supposed to eat it. But it's just completely, wacky, and there's very little substance to this thing that the government has had quite a lot. I mean, to be fair to Boris, he was a little bit under the weather recently, but in fact, very much so, and in fact, he saw just how bad this can get. In his intensive care bed, and I think he went on record as saying that it was going to be about 50-50 for him. He could have popped his clogs. So this is serious stuff. So there can be no doubt in government this is a serious thing, and obviously they've got the challenge of when to ease up, because you've got the balance of the economy and all that to be fair, and the country goes into meltdown anyway. But we don't want. We do not want 500,000 people dead. We just don't. And this is so bad that, for example, there's one guy in South Korea who went out when he shouldn't, and hundreds of clubs had to be closed down because there was immediately a little hotspot of this thing. So it's very, 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 very important to test just about everybody, and keep testing just about everybody, and isolate all the cases. And how difficult can that be? Why do we need a different phone app? For goodness sake, why do we need a different phone app from the whole of the rest of the world? What is it? I mean, look, I know we cracked the Enigma code, but that was 70, 80 years ago. So if Google and Apple have got something that works, do we really need to work on a British version? Isn't that a bit silly? Just my humble opinion, but there are times when, and I think that there's never been a time like the present to look around the world, and with some all they need is kind of CNN and all those things on a television up in Downing Street, and they can look and they can see what other countries are doing, and you can see what works and you can see what doesn't, and sack all the spin doctors because they're just a drain of resources. Give me the money. I mean, no, that's my policy. If elected as Prime Minister, we'll sack all the spin doctors and give me the money, which I'll pay into a Swiss bank account. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Job done.
So I suppose it's also the collateral damages of people that can't go, don't go to hospital appointments, or the operation have been cancelled because of attending coronavirus. So is the collateral damage also, I assume?
That is very important. But you see, on that basis, the sensible thing to have done would be a very good evening, Jeffrey. I was having a little go at our PM, but you missed it. It was a cracker, so you'll have to rewind to find that, unfortunately. But there are sensible things to do, which anybody with a pea brain like me would know. So, for example, don't close down. Very good point. Don't close down the bleeding Nightingale. Send your COVID patients there, and then open up the theatres in the hospital for the cancer patients and this kind of thing. Hello, is that not because otherwise these people who haven't got this virus will be casualties of it and will die just as much as the other people who've got it. So there are actually different and better outcomes to every single thing that the government's announced, starting reopening some of the schools in June. Are you insane, British government? This is nonsense. Let's get all little Johnny infected, and then he can go home and give it to grandma and grandpa. That's insane.
Yeah, the thing is that the Nightingale Hospital is costing quite a lot of money, isn't it, on
Well,
a weekly basis?
That's not our fault that they struck a shit deal with the owners of the premises, and they didn't find somewhere cheaper, or indeed commandeer it and say to them, we are taking this over from the state now, and we're not going to pay you, and it's going to be 6 months and tough, but we'll give you a rebate on your business rates. I mean, come on, is this the government or is this the government? Everybody else got a handout. There are lots of ways to do these things. It was a bad. Rachel Day says, "I'm going out. What, right now, before the end of the thing?" But if you do, another announcement for the government was, well, put a mask on. We recommend you do, and this is after like 2 or 3 months of recommending that you don't. Okay, we recommend you do, but we're not going to arrest you if you don't. So kind of I would like to go out, and in fact my garden is a postage stamp, minuscule, tiny little thing, which is and I'm to blame for that, because my dad, when I was a kid, had this enormous garden. It was about 1 acre, and when he came home from the old day job, he used to like nothing more than to unwind. I was going to say rewind, to unwind by going to the garden and pottering about a bit, but that put me off for life. So I got the tiniest garden I could possibly get, and our house is on a corner in the road, and the plot is shaped like that, so that bit's the house, and then the tiny little bit at the bottom is the garden.
I do like big gardens.
Which up until now, you see, I thought I could outsource my garden enjoyment to council-employed gardeners who would do all the parks nicely, but now I can't do that. That was not something that was in my plans, you see. So however carefully you plan, I mean, you know, and it is our decision now as to whether to go out or not. But if we do go out, I do suggest, Rachel, anybody who's thinking of going out, that we do keep the social distancing going. I think that's very, very important. And you know, if you're a metre away from somebody and then you go to 2 metres, it's 1/10 of the chance of catching the lurgy at 2 metres than it is at 1 metre. So I think 3 metres. Anybody who comes, you let me know, and I'll anybody who comes any closer to you than 3 metres, Rachel, you let me know, and I'll staple their face to the pavement. How does that sound? Have we got a deal? I think, you know, I've always been an easygoing fella, you know, and so I'm always happy to oblige and help. By the way, for the avoidance of doubt, I'm joking. Oh la la! Oh, I'm getting the look. I'm getting the look. But no. On a serious note, though, let us not forget that this is a very, very serious contagion. So SARS-CoV-2, as it's called, because COVID-19 is the illness you get. And let us treat it with some respect, and let us not go, well, hey, out we go. It's still out there. It doesn't go away in the summer, contrary to some of the reports that were out there at the start. And you know, be careful, especially if you're in an at-risk group or if one of your loved ones is.
Yeah.
So that's the serious takeaway.
I think that's why you feel very strongly about it, because you are in that particular group, and
As it happens, yeah.
and I am too. So a lot of people, I mean, we all want to go back to the old life, in having a coffee, having a cup of tea, working. We used to love going out for coffee and working from a restaurant instead of working from home. So that freedom, it was just amazing. Unfortunately, something that we are not going to be able to do for a while, because obviously, for just to keep the collateral damage to a minimum, in case other people that really need treatment, really need operations, or they need to go into hospital for a very valid reason. So if the only matters is just to keep a little bit, keep our distance, and protect each other, and protect the NHS also. I mean, they are the soldiers. I mean, it's okay, I go out like that, I might die, you don't know, if I do get it and get to go into the hospital, but just the me going through that, and the possibility of contagion other people is just something that I cannot do out of willingness. If this is what we need to do for the time being, this is what we will do. As simple as that.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of our features, which we're able to do thanks to our very good friend Kevin, is to give our answers to the questions from the public, that out of thousands of questions that the government selected the 3 easiest ones to answer. And we'll give, and then the Spin Doctor spent the whole of the rest of the day working word by word on the minutiae of the exact response that says nothing but eloquently. So we're going to give our no-nonsense answers to the press conference answers from today's thing. Do you want to go first? Here's a question from Scott from Devon. Can we see friends and family at the park if we practice social distance rules? What if they're actually at the park when we get there? Should we leave, or can we stay and talk if we keep to the social distance rules? What do you reckon?
Oh my God.
We get to the park and our son's there, so should we go, oops, and we back out and we back off, or we walk backwards? Is that
I think
what
you have
we
to
should
apply
do?
common sense. If he happens to be there, or you manage to arrange a meeting at the park, I mean, that's fine. But I don't know, it's up to you. But just
I mean,
wear a t-shirt 3 meters.
yeah, but do you know what I mean about the kind of absurdity of the questions that they talk about? You
But
know,
surely they get more interesting questions than that.
yeah, we have. I mean, look, I'm going to confess, we've met our son once since the start of lockdown. So you know, and what did we do? He was at his front door. We were about 5 or 6 meters away, and we sort of had a whispery conversation across the garden, and that is it.
And that's because we had to.
And that's because we had to. It was necessary, and you know, we had to do that. We wouldn't have done it at all otherwise. But you know, to be fair and upfront about everything. But you know, we kept a 5 metre separation. It was about 5
We did.
metres, wasn't it? So he's safe, we're safe. The fact that we're here now and that he's there now means that we did it the right way. So yeah. But no games of football and no contact sports and all that kind of thing in the park when you happen to bump into your family by accident in the park. Yeah, as you do every day, really.
So what is the second question?
So the second question, Simon from Essex. Oh, hello, I'm from Essex, in case you couldn't tell. My given name is Decky. I come from Billericay, and I'm doing very well, which was a song by Ian Dury, the late, great rocker. Fabulous guy. Where schools have remained accessible to children of key workers, are they now expected to allow children to return, where their parents are from industries that are being actively encouraged to return to work, such as construction and manufacturing, etc.? If not, how do you propose these people return to work if there's no childcare available? Good question.
Yeah, I think every single employer is going to have measures in terms of childcare.
We would hope so. The bigger employers, but what about even the smaller employers? Aren't going to be able to do that, are they? They're not going to have the resources.
Well, I don't know. Manufacturers, smaller employers. Well, I used to be a small manufacturer employer.
Yeah.
But
a small manufacturer that's got, say, 5 employees is not going to be able to set up a creche for the
no,
even if they're manufacturing face masks.
Well, they have to go down.
So it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a difficult issue.
Yeah, because
actually,
you cannot keep your employees for a long time. So I don't know. A lot of business is going down.
Difficult one. Yeah. And it's difficult as well about Boris saying yesterday, well, work from home if you can, if you're a sort of middle class like me and you've got but if you work in a factory and you're go down the mine and go in the factory and because it'll be difficult in some of these contexts to have the social distancing. What we've seen so far, which is front-facing public type stuff, it's been pretty good. In the supermarkets, you've got arrows and you've got lines and this kind of thing. And I actually leave 2 lines between myself and the next guy, so that's 4 metres in the queues, and it doesn't hurt. Anybody comes near me at the back, I'm at them with the pitchfork, but only if it's a shop that sells pitchforks.
He exaggerates always. Yes, a bit of a shocker in that temperature. It's completely harmless.
I'm harmless in my Zimmer frame, really. I take a swing at them with my Zimmer frame if I get too close. That's what I do. Now, Puya from Solihull asks this, and this is a question that it could have been my pseudonym. I'm amazed that they chose this one. Yesterday, you left the nation with more questions than answers. When lockdown initially started, you were very specific about what needed to shut down and when. Why are you being so vague with who can start back at work and which businesses can reopen this week? When will the British public receive further clarity on this? I think that's a very, very good point that Buya from Solihull made, and I thoroughly endorse it. And no doubt the spin doctors will have spent the day concocting an answer, but there is no real answer. You've got to be hard and fast about what we can and we can't do. It's very soon, Mr. Prime Minister, to be opening up after this pandemic thing, because the numbers are still just kind of calming down and bubbling under. Within a week it could triple. Within another week it could triple again, and within another week it could triple again. So we could have 27 times more cases in 3 weeks' time than we have now. But that's the first we'll know about it because of the silent period of this virus.
We'll have to ask our Oxford friends to hurry up with a cure, medicine, vaccine, anything.
I do hope
treatment.
the government has resourced them and has helped them with the manufacturing and things like this, because that's what they were saying on the rather excellent Andrew Marr show the other week. Well, we will press on with development of this and fine-tuning it. Is there any chance the government could help with the facilitating the manufacture of it? So I hope they've done that. Let's hold them accountable insofar as we can, given that there's no new election for quite a while. Hello, Adam. You missed my all-time greatest rant, or noisiest one, about his timid Borisness earlier. Kevin says, what about a UV lamp? Asking for a friend. There are kind of UV type robots, aren't there, that you can send into hotel rooms and that kind of thing. You've seen them. And they really look like K9 from Doctor Who, but with a thing on the back, stuck on the back, which is a sort of cylindrical tube. And when you turn them on, they zap the room with so much UV that you wouldn't want to be standing in the room while it's going on. but after about 10 minutes of that, no virus worth its metal can stand being zapped in that way, and they just explode. So that's kind of a good thing, isn't it? Really, and you can probably tell forged banknotes as well if you hold them up close enough. But keeping your safe distance. So the general feeling overall is that the Prime Minister's statement yesterday was a bit on the vague side, that it was possibly a bit too early to be opening up, and that being vague allows people the freedom to sort of make their own interpretations on stuff and run risks. And it would have been nicer to have it. I mean, I know we've got a 60-page dossier today, but it would be nicer to have all this spelled out on Sunday evening, really, especially with it being sunny weather, and especially with everybody being cooped up at home and raring to go out and get a bit of sunshine. We are as well. And so, you know, it would have been nice to have that. And then you know, some of the advice, well, so how come the new government advice on face masks has changed so that for 2 months they're telling, oh, face mask, pff, who needs one? And now they're saying that the public should wear a face covering in crowded places, that as more people return to work, creating greater movement outside of a person's immediate household, a form of facial covering, such as a homemade cloth covering, should be worn in enclosed spaces where social distancing is not always possible. Is that going to help? A woolly scarf? I'm reminded a bit, you know, there was a thing. Well, yeah, there you go. You look very. Emma's looking very fetching in her nice homemade covering.
It's just a piece of tissue.
It suits you. Oh.
Clean one.
And well, I'm glad to hear that. But you know, in the 1980s, when we were at the height of the Cold War and all these weapons, missiles are pointing at each side from time to time, there was an actor, a lovely guy called Patrick Allen, made some videos of some public information films which were never screened at the time, thank goodness, but which have since emerged on YouTube. And this campaign was called Protect and Survive, and it's like a 10 megaton bomb is heading at your home. And the official government advice was to actually either brace yourself in a doorway in your home, as you do for an earthquake, or hide under a table. Some of this advice that's coming out of here is perhaps, a cynic might say, on a par with that. You know, when there's sensible stuff we can be doing, and if we tell people the sensible stuff, they'll do the sensible stuff and they'll stay alive. And you know, I do think that's very important. And if I'm left unclear as to what I'm supposed to do during lockdown, then you know, I'm sure that there must be others. Yeah. A 60-page document, huh? So people can, from Wednesday, so not tomorrow, no jumping the gun, but from Wednesday, I mean, what's that about? From Wednesday, people can visit a grandparent, a girlfriend, or a boyfriend from outside their household if they sit 2 meters apart and remain outdoors. Well, there we are. So yeah, that's a great piece of advice. Well, there we are. And so Kevin says, yeah. So as from Wednesday, I can travel in my car to go outdoors for exercise, or to sit in a park, or on a beach, as long as I don't go to Wales or Scotland. Yeah, that's about the size of it. That absolutely sums up the government's advice for us at the moment.
Is that the title of a song?
Then Kevin has a second comment, which I can't really read out, but you'll see it on the comments. So have a look, and absolutely, totally so.
Kevin are thinking pictures. That doesn't help.
Well, but that is so totally right, and that is the calibre of the advice that we're being given. So I think, you see, here in Cambridge, we pride ourselves on being quite smart fellas, mostly. And you know, it was and the Football Association, all sorts of other people were voting with their feet. So before this government lockdown, at least a week before the government lockdown, all the footy matches were off. Everybody here was staying at home and locking their doors before the government told us to do it. You know, so kind of. I suspect that a lot of people will be continuing to just. So it's funny because now, I mean, you know, I'm a rock and roll rebel at heart. You know, so now my way of rebelling will be to stay at home when the government tells me I can go out. I mean, yeah, which is perverse, isn't it, really? But, you know, I would really want to know that it was safe, and I would want the science before I went walking about. And Kevin and I've got this graph, so we can see the way the numbers are going. But we're going to be looking very carefully for spikes in the next 7 to 10 days.
It was looking nice and smooth.
It was
going
all
down.
going away, and I was getting all excited. And we even got the we got the bicycle saddle out already. This is Irma's new bicycle saddle. There's a plug for Anglia Ruskin University in Cambridge here. And if you want to see what Irma's new saddle looks like, can I reveal it? Here we go. Look, we're doing a little bit of a striptease here on the old saddle. It's a funny shape. Why is it a funny shape, and why should it be a funny shape for boys and girls? Yep, that's it. Well, the answer is that I'm just digressing slightly. Yeah, we can get rid of it now. But basically, your spine is not made to get a lot of pressure on it, which you do when cycling. Which, whatever your gender is, it's better to just support your cheeks and give the spine a bit of a rest. This is serious stuff, because it's not good for you. It's not good for you
It's good engineering.
to get compression on the old spine. We're not built that way. And so we got a nice saddle for Irma, but we haven't had a chance to take it for a ride yet. That's very nice. Kevin has sent me a PM. He's found it with the Protect and Survive videos from that very nice man, Patrick Allen, telling us what to do should the worst come about. But we're supposed to be talking about happy stuff on this, aren't we? Really. So let us switch to happy news. So happy news: weddings could be allowed in England from June, says the government. Could be. Let us read it down further. This is according to Sky News, and Sky News very helpfully gives us a picture of 4 feet to illustrate that story. Nothing else. So there we are. Thereby protecting the anonymity of the knees of the bride and groom. And God bless them. God bless them one and all. And what?
My
So
goodness.
engaged couples in England. So if you're not engaged, no chance of a sort of quick Gretna Green job, especially since Gretna Green will still be in lockdown. From the 1st of June, officials are examining how to enable people to gather in slightly larger groups to better facilitate small weddings. What a load of gobbledygook civil servantese that is. They are examining how to enable people to gather in slightly larger groups to better facilitate small weddings.
How can
So,
you do that? It's just
The bride, the groom, and the reverend. Reading between the lines, I mean, isn't it? Come on, that's I guess what that means. Presumably, it is not clear, says Sky News, how many people would constitute a small wedding, and the guidance says that places of worship will not be open until the 4th of July at the earliest. So they're going to have 1 month and 4 days to think about this. The officials. It's fluff, isn't it? Really, or is it me? It's fluff.
Well, I'm trying to think. For example, if you want to see the wedding photograph for a group, you can always just get the bride and groom, and then 2 meters apart the mother, and the rest, until you make it a panoramic, right? Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And then you can always cut out and just put them all together.
There was one report I was reading today about which professions or occupations are at most risk during this pandemic, in addition to the obviously frontline
Key workers
and medical staff, and 2 that came up, which I thought was quite interesting, were security people, and also cab drivers. Cab drivers I can understand, because they're in a small space with somebody who might or might not have this germ. Security workers, I'm not quite sure. Perhaps they have to sort of manhandle the people out of the building or something. But most buildings are closed.
The keys and contacts, the alarms going in and out of different places.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Now,
cross contamination, basically.
I have to tell you that there was a doctor who had a rant, and it wasn't my friend Dr. Mike, but it was this fella, a Cambridge doctor. There he is. He had a bit of a rant on Twitter, and God bless him. So it's not just me. It's not just me. I mean, and he is let me see what he is. He is a doctor. He's a senior NHS consultant at Addenbrooke's here in Cambridge. And he saw this street party being celebrated in a town called, rather appropriately, Cosham, because that's what's going to happen to these guys. So there they are, quite a lot of people and a dog in the street. 2 meter distancing, nowhere in evidence whatsoever by the look of it,
Oh my goodness.
except for the reporter, and he's about 5 meters away from all of those folks. And this rather, and that is, I hasten to say, it's not in Cambridgeshire in my county. It's in Portsmouth. And he's an intensive care consultant at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Colchester, in Cambridge, and he did a series of tweets on Facebook where he said, "We have 4,000 spare ventilators. We can lift the lockdown for a street party. Can I stop you there? It's nonsense, and perhaps I can explain why, being an ICU consultant and all that." And he goes on and on and on to explain that we are facing a lack of high-quality ventilators that could be used to help people should they come down with this. And he finishes by saying, "Please stay the bleep at home," a naughty word beginning with the letter F, "and don't use our intensiveness and ability to cobble together solutions as an excuse for a street party." So you see, it's not just me. This is an ICU doctor who is at the front line, who is seeing patients coming in day after day after day after day, relentlessly under his care. He's bringing them back to good health, and he's seeing people behaving recklessly. The hospital apparently was contacted, but did not wish to comment. So there we are. But you know, it's up to us to stay healthy, and we protect our doctors and nurses as well by doing that, because by not treating us with all our germs, they're not going to catch it either. So, you know, for me, that's kind of obvious. Good evening, Renee. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm sorry I've been ranting a bit following the Prime Minister's rather interesting televised address to the nation yesterday, which we watched. She made me. And yeah, and at the end of it, we were not massively more
I'm so regretting that now.
we're not massively more okay. But anyway, this thing was started. We started this 49 days ago, so this is the last day of week 7, to kind of lift everybody's spirits, including ours. So let us not get down by the fact that we might have to stay at home for another 7 weeks if people are not clever, which would be nice to think that they will be. So there were a few things going on, which are always nice. So yesterday, Britain hosted its biggest ever, or biggest during this crisis, biggest virtual garden party to boost the nation's mental well-being. It was a 5-hour event featuring flower-based crafting tutorials, a story reading, and a drinks party, where presumably we were doing all those things at home and they were doing it. And so here is a lady called Kate Southard with a floral headdress, which was in the virtual garden day, and lots of flowers on that thing. And that's
beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing, and I think that would cheer people up, wouldn't it?
Oh yes,
it would.
I love flowers.
It would. A very, very nice creation there. And it was supported by a load of leading gardeners, which is terrific, including a guy who's won the Royal Horticultural Society Gold Medal 13 times over, a guy called Chris Beardshaw, who said, "Garden Day is the perfect opportunity for us all to get into our gardens, share our experiences virtually, and participate in a movement that sows the seeds of health, happiness and healing." To which those were his words, and then the Telegraph, those naughty people, say, "Let us do it again soon," spelt lettuce, Lettuce.
Yeah.
Haha. Well, anyway, you know, so now there's a thought that we might have in future in museums, a lockdown exhibit where we put things that people that have been meaningful to people during lockdown. For example, a half-knitted scarf and a pair of tatty old slippers, which have comforted people during this period, because we've all been I've been shuffling around the house in my slippers, but I haven't got a half-knitted scarf yet. But you know, I'm ever hopeful. Send me one if you're knitting a scarf. Don't worry about finishing it. Just pop it in an envelope. Send it my way. A makeshift. This is the Museum of London, who is actually curating such an exhibit. and they've got a jar of homemade jam and a makeshift rattle for the weekly clap for carers.
Ooh.
I know. So there we go. So it's all good stuff. New Zealand on the other side of the world, who are doing pretty well in their battle against COVID-19, are relaxing their lockdown even further. They're able to open shopping malls, restaurants, cinemas, and playgrounds quite safely, because there are no rogue cases roaming around. Because as soon as it started, they locked down the borders. And it's a long swim to New Zealand, let me tell you. So that effectively nailed it. How about that? Formula One is thinking about holding the British Grand Prix in July on what would be their 70th anniversary. And 7 of the 10 Formula One teams are based here in Britain. And they would be returning from a very secure environment where they've been locked down in Austria and being tested. So you never know. You never know.
So
Disneyland.
to see some action.
Disneyland in Shanghai. I didn't even know they had a Disneyland in Shanghai.
Yes.
Disneyland in Shanghai reopened on Monday after 3 weeks of closure, and they take the temperature of visitors, and they are strictly restricting the numbers, but they're going to have loudspeakers asking people to keep facial masks on and to do the social distancing. But tickets for the park on the state media sold out within minutes. So,
Yeah, I think we're all getting desperate just to go out and really enjoy life.
There's some good stuff. Ahead of Jeff Bezos in Ireland, it is a pub called McKeever's Bar and Lounge in Rathdrinag, which is sending by drone bottles of beer and packets of crisps to its customers, to, as it says here, lift their spirits. So that's a good thing, isn't it? Really, yeah. So it's there's a little bit of good news today, but a lot of confusion.
Okay, what are the good news? Because the confusion is past.
The confusion's passed. Well, I think that was the good news. The good news is in very limited supply today, because because I haven't been looking for it as hard as I normally do, having been a bit gobsmacked by the rather sudden. Good evening, David. Good to have you with us. Now Kevin has sent me some uplifting stuff. Let's take a look at this. It says, "Feed lions, muck out monkeys, and TikTok dance." This comes from the BBC. We'll have to investigate what this is all about. It's quite interesting. I only found out what TikTok was at the start of lockdown when some TikTok stars, 6 of them, decided to all live in a house together and combine their huge audiences with their jolly pranks and things. So the zookeepers are allowed to go to zoos during lockdown, unlike the public, because the animals don't stop pooing, so they need to keep mucking out the cages, to be blunt about this. And so they are dancing as part of a trending TikTok challenge involving dancing to Blinding Lights by The Weeknd. This is a bit like Harlem Shake, isn't it? Back in the day, I remember Harlem Shake. And Folly Farm in Tenby in Pembrokeshire, the BBC tells me, is among those competing after one of their zookeepers posted a short video on the social media app. So, yeah, rock and roll all night, party every day, and clean out those cages.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that video of it's a massive garden, and there are a few gardeners looking after this garden, and everything is keeping distance, and then just having a dance. So it's kind of a trending thing at the moment. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've seen one which I won't spoil it for you by telling what it's about, but it's about residents all moving their wheelie bins 2 meters apart, and then they do something, which is to do with the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But if you haven't seen that, look out for it. Kind of a bit unexpected. And then there's a girl called Laura Fuchs, who is taking photos of New Yorkers trying to stay cheerful in the during lockdown. And there we see some youngsters in their masks and such like, which is very good to see. And there's a lot of stuff still going on, reminiscent of 1945 and thereabouts, like a team of Welsh footballers who finished second in the English Football League, which is quite interesting, and a lady who celebrated her 100th birthday on a ward in a hospital after testing positive for coronavirus, but there she is actually celebrating, and by the look of it, hopefully this lady Ivy Reeves will make a good recovery, and
100th birthday.
her symptoms
Amazing.
have begun to improve, and the hospital allowed her son in to visit her. So if we look at this photo again, the guy standing behind her in this photo is actually her son. So that's a very nice heartrending story. And he's wearing his PPE. He's wearing a little PPE apron, some surgical gloves. He's wearing an apron, that boy.
Oh,
I think he just came from the washing up, doing the washing up in the hospital kitchen. That's how he managed to wangle his way in there.
Why not?
And he came to give Mum a hug, which I think is it's ever so nice. And Mum looks like a very happy, cheerful lady. And these are the kind of people who do well when there are illnesses and things going around, because our high spirits and our good intentions actually keep us going and make us healthier. And then there's a lady who called Catherine Dawson here. This is all on the BBC webpage that Rocker Kev sent me. She spent 8 days on a ventilator, and doctors feared she might not make it, but she and her newborn baby are alive and kicking, as it were, especially kicking in the sense of the baby. So that is fantastic. And there are a few things here. A family has set up a board on their garden fence, really, by the look of it, where passers-by can write little messages. We had a thing like that in Cambridge, didn't we? Because Yoko Ono had a tree where you could hang little messages. That was here last year. It seems like an eon ago when we could go around and do that sort of thing, and everybody was hanging little messages. This is a kind of wall where people can leave their messages that this family has printed. When this is over, I'm looking forward to ... And people are filling in their little inscriptions, which I think
That's amazing.
it's a very, very nice little gesture that people have done there, being filled in by families and such like, and more than 200 people have written that on that so far. The fellow who did it is a fellow called Matt Young. He's a community worker, and he put up his board in the second week of lockdown, and everybody passing by has been filling it in and even having a chat to him over the garden fence as well, which I think is a very nice, uplifting story on this.
That just gave me an idea of gathering lots of planks of wood and making little thoughts on as to what are we going to be doing after this is over, and then just setting like a bonfire, and hopefully by the 5th of November all this will be gone. Do you think?
Remember. Absolutely. It'll all be in a museum by then, as is the place where I used to work when I was at the BBC. That's a museum of sorts as well. Hello to Petra, our very good friend from Cambridge. We were complaining about Boris earlier, but now we've got onto the funny stories, which is what we try to do every day on here. Yeah, it's there's still a lot of stuff, good stuff going on. My poor old head got terribly confused yesterday, listening to our Prime Minister, but it's gradually becoming clear that basically I'm going to stay home and I'm going to carry on what I was doing last week, in a nutshell. But to anybody who wants to do different things, the good news, I guess, is you won't get arrested anymore.
Yeah,
that summarises it, doesn't it? I
think fines are still going to be happening, isn't
there
it?
are going to be fines for certain things. So,
But
for
what
example,
things are they? That doesn't make sense.
if for
How?
example, you're not a UK national, and you're entering the country, as this lockdown proceeds, they've said that what they're probably going to do is say to you, go off and self-quarantine for 14 days. One of the in China, they're doing this, if I may say so, in a fairly sensible way, where they just swab you and stick you in a holding cell for a while until the test results come through. Now that is effective. It probably doesn't encourage tourism in the same way that other things is, but here they're talking about saying, just go off home and stay there for 2 weeks, and if you go out walking about and we catch you, we'll give you a big fine, which does mean possibly if you're taking the tube home or the bus or something, you might infect some people along the way. So it's not perhaps quite as effective. I was the world's greatest fan, I'll be honest with you, of public transport, and now I'm not anymore.
Yes, we had lovely experiences during the public transport, meeting fabulous people that still are friends and very interesting people. But now those days are over
We
for
did.
you.
We were doing all sorts of crazy stuff and meeting people on the tube on the way to Mexico and finding their wallet and all kinds of remarkable meetings with people and everything. And then the extraordinary thing on that day was that they got off the tube and lost their wallet. So we got off one step later, I think. And then we were looking at this wallet, wondering what to do with it, whether to hand it into the police or try and see if we could contact them on Facebook or something. When the next train comes along and they'd realised they'd lost their wallet, and then they hopped on after us, and we were standing on the platform, whoa, and we were to give it to them.
We got your wallet.
Which was ever so nice. So that solved our conundrum of whether to sort of hand it in and possibly get it lost, or to try and trace the owner ourselves, and so all those little adventures. And my geriatric card, we'll have to put it in a frame now and put it on the wall, because that'll be my last geriatric rail card that I get for the foreseeable.
Yeah, in my case, I was just beginning to really enjoy public transport because I'm a driver, so I hardly ever, in fact, I can't remember the last time before I met David that I used public transport. So for me it was a whole adventure, a new concept, and I was really enjoying it. We got to meet fabulous people that we still get in touch, and but now all those days are over for us for the next
for the time
3
being.
years, I think.
For the time being, shall we say? Anyway, yeah. So you know, this is the thing. Irma had her under 25 rail card. I had my geriatric one, so we were able to both travel around the country at a knockdown price. You know, which is not a knockdown price compared to car travel, but it's more fun. In you know, you were nervous the first couple of times, weren't you? Oh my goodness, where do I sit and what do I hold on to and all that?
Well, it's because of course when we used to travel to London, I would use the underground and everything else, but on an everyday basis.
Yeah, and like going with a train to catch when like the suitcases are sliding up and down the thing every time the train stops. I think you find that a bit stressful. And then the train separated and we were in the wrong bit of this train, weren't we? And
I used to panic a bit. Yes.
We were walking all the way along this train, being told to go to that end. And then we get to that end, and the one goes, no, that end, and that was quite an interesting state of affairs, where struggling through the aisles with suitcases and all that kind of stuff. Now you must have quite a few thoughts today to bring us.
No, it's just giving thanks and thankful, and basically being grateful is one of the things that I've learned since I was very young. For every single day, it doesn't matter whatever happens and comes our way. That's how you build resilience. When we're tiny and just begin to walk, we fall about 20 times, and 20 times we get up and move walking in life and start walking. So it's all about everything is in your mind, and this is from the Buddha, a thought, which is the mind is everything. When what we think, we become, and it is true. If we get negatives, okay, it's okay to have a rant. I mean, David, yeah, we all do a rant from time to time. But when you want to really enjoy life, the best thing for you is to really feed your brain with the good stuff, and the good stuff come out. And one of the first and very simple thing that you can do on an everyday basis is just to wake up in the morning and be grateful for everything, for the people that you know, for the person that is looking at yourself when you look at in the mirror, and just give yourself a little bit of love, and just gratitude for everything, and really would make a difference. It will save you for the day. Or some people like meditating. I do, but different kind of meditation. There are about 200 different ways of meditating, and I'm sure that if you are to dedicate 5 to 10 minutes a day just for yourself, and just to reflect and to be grateful, wow, you will see your day just turns out to be fabulous.
Absolutely. Hello to Gary, by the way, who joined us a minute ago, and to Tony as well. I was reminded, listening to that a statement from the Buddha, of something that Henry Ford said, the motor car bloke, and he said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So, we define our lives, and if we're sort of happy, cheerful, and happy-go-lucky and everything, and when I do my rants, it's a bit theatrics, to be honest, but I do feel strongly about certain issues, and you can't bottle it up. But if we carry on with our life with a sort of happy disposition, if we're optimistic and positive, then that comes about. That becomes the truth. We make our future in that way.
And I'm very grateful because I always loved philosophy since I was very young, from a very young age. And I married one, a philosopher. And today's his thought, as I was commenting, this is a very nice phrase that you came up with today. It says, every day is an endless road with infinite possibilities. How is that, hey?
Oh, I'm
It does
honoured
work.
that you would read that. I'm honoured that you would read that up. Yeah, that's still something I came up with over breakfast today. Terrific.
Enjoy life, be grateful. So,
Absolutely, and you know, thank you so much for your company tonight. We're honoured, really, that you would join us for like 49 days running, sitting here in our living room, just you know, reflecting on life and joking around a bit mostly, and you know. And just, you know, like it's just like, you know, joining us for a virtual you know, cup of tea at home and a sort of a nightcap, you know, and you know, sharing a bit of our lives and sharing with us a bit of your life, and you know, we'll be continuing to do this. Kevin says, I'm carrying on as is. We will be as well.
we are.
I know a lot of people will. It won't be for everybody. I mean, I think earlier on, was it?
That's the lady just after
I think it was
that.
Rachel, wasn't it, who said that
Yes.
she was going to be
Yeah, so long
yeah,
it is.
go out. Well, you know, that's people's free choice, as long as we understand, you know, the risks of going out and obviously the rewards, and we will have to sort of weigh that up and form a view. I personally think it's still bloody dangerous. Good evening, Guy. It's very nice of you to join us this evening. I think probably for the first time, and we're just inviting people to join us at home for a bit of a chat. We've been doing this for 49 days so far. We shall continue soldiering on until we feel it's safe to go out and about and have or invite friends round or whatever. But in the virtual context we're doing at the moment. Kevin says, how about every rose has its thorn, just like every night has its dawn.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's terrific.
Wow.
That's a lovely
Beautiful,
sentiment.
beautiful
Lovely
thought.
sentiment. And so yeah, so it's been a totally unexpected time, isn't it? I mean, look, 7 sevens are 49. That's kind of a lucky number, isn't it? Really, it's the seventh son of a seventh son or something, which I think was wasn't that an Iron Maiden thing? But anyway, I believe it was. But anyway, you know, 7 sevens. So this is a real time to sort of underline, you know, where we're at and how we feel about where we've reached and where we think we're going. You know, what's the view from the living room on day, on the seventh day. So it's on the final bit of, we're a few hours away from the start of it. In fact, I think we have started week 8 because Boris's announcement came at about that time. It's about 9 p.m. So I think we've just started week 8, strictly speaking.
Well, it's going to be the survival of the fittest or the survival of the smarter.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you know, clearly
Smartest.
it's not the end of the world as we know it. Sadly, it has been for more than 30,000 of our fellow Brits and for many more around the world. But, you know, we carry on, we soldier on. It's very important to keep the spirits up and to keep, you know, bouncing along, because the minute you give up, it's game over. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. And it's not as bad as it could be. And part of the scary stuff is just to persuade people to stay home. And you know, if you could get Sully from Monsters Inc. to stand outside the door every time you went
That's
up,
one
that
of my
would probably
favourite
help.
films, by the way.
That was a lovely film. Lovely film. I agree. As was Toy Story 2 was another of my
Shrek.
favourites. Disney's Up was my favourite.
Oh,
A class
wow.
of all of those. That first 15 minutes of it. Have you seen it?
Yes.
That's a lovely thing. That reduced me to tears, that film did at the beginning. It
Yes,
really,
me too.
whoa, it was so unexpected, because I just thought it was a little thing you go to see with the Sprogs for a bit of Saturday morning entertainment, and then suddenly, whack. So Kevin says, the survival of the smartest, he thinks, I couldn't possibly comment, but, you know, so there are those of us who will be staying home, shall we say, will be continuing to stay home. And now it's great because as rockers, we hate to comply with what we're told by the government, you see. So when the government stays home and we're staying home, that really hurts. That's a difficult thing to do. But when the government says go out, we stay home, then we're rocking, bro, and that's what it's all about. So that is, personally speaking, what I'm going to do. I've got a feeling that everybody in my city is going to be doing it as well, and we'll just see how it pans out nationwide. But the fatality rates in this part of my city are almost zit. Because everybody's staying very far away from everybody else, and some of the far-flung bits of Cambridge have had a few fatalities. There's very little around these parts, because there was this interactive map that I think it was Kevin sent it to me the other day, and zooming in on this area, well, basically nobody's going anywhere, so it's impossible to catch this through walls. It's the bottom line, really, and so there we are. So
So anyway, this life we do is like our lifeline in terms of yes, just enjoying and inviting friends around, and
it's a nice way to interact with you guys, our friends. It really is, and there are some people who turn up quite regularly. Occasionally, there are people who sort of breeze in and out, a bit like life. That's a bit like how life is, isn't it? Really. Yesterday was Mexican Mother's Day.
Oh, yes, it was.
And not many people know that. So we had some of our friends around virtually for that, which is nice. And you can socialise on this screen thing. And it was that guy Malcolm Gladwell, the author, who was talking very interestingly, being interviewed today. We saw him on YouTube talking about it. We saw him this morning. Talking about that, and he was talking about the way things change, and he was drawing a lot of a lot of comparisons with it being VE Day and the anniversary of that with how it was for people back in the Blitz and all those times, how there's a great feeling of solidarity and everybody pulled together. But one of the other things he said is that today, unlike in those times, we have our kind of solidarity due to all these screens that everybody's got and the cameras and things which link us all up. So we're kind of we're united in our isolation, in a sense, which makes it a whole lot easier to bear.
Interesting times.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, as always, for your company tonight. It is a real honour, and I'm not just saying this, I really mean it. It's a real honour that you would choose to spend some of your time with us of a weekday evening, and it touches us. We're very, very honoured that you would do that for us. So we will be back a little bit earlier tomorrow, because everybody knows Tuesday night is rock night. So we do try and squeeze in a short one just before that. It probably won't be the full hour, but Emma and I will be having a bit of a chit chat, I think, tomorrow night. We can reasonably assume that. So in the meantime, stay safe, stay happy, and be good to each other.
Be grateful.
Be grateful. Thank you so much for your company tonight.
Mm-hmm.